Hey guys, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And I hope you enjoyed this interview. Hello and welcome to the program. This is Moneyline with Nancy. I am Nancy Naji. Thank you for joining us today. We will be looking at the equities market in a bit. Of course, so many things around the equities market. Don't forget that just a few days ago, Mr. President did change the leadership at the Securities and Exchange Commission. Of course, SEC is the apex regulating body of the Nigerian capital market. We also have other issues around what may likely influence the Nigerian capital market. Of course, there are also inflation concerns. You have the recapitalization of the banks and what have you. So we'll be looking at all of that, and perhaps even the year-to-date return that we've seen so far on the Nigerian equities space. If you are actually making money from that space, all that we'll be looking at today. But let's get started with what's in the news. Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria's latest quarterly statistical bulletin has disclosed that Nigeria incurred a debt service of $3.5 billion for its external loans in the fiscal year ended 2023. And this is a 55% increase from the $2.6 billion incurred as debt service related payments for the country's external debts. The federal government, through the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, has announced that it has started the unbundling process for 11 electricity distribution companies along state lines for better efficiency. Adelabu noted that the power firms would be broken into more efficient structures to enable them deliver on their mandates. The federal government says it's planning to attract investment worth $10 billion through the signing of the consolidated guidelines for the implementation of fiscal incentives for the oil and gas sector. The guidelines are aimed at enhancing the global competitiveness of Nigeria's oil and gas sector while stimulating economic growth. Moving ahead to the NNPC now, the NNPC Limited and its joint venture partner in the Akwoba unit field, New Cross Exploration and Production Limited, have resumed production crude oil in Akwoba Field, Rivers State, for the first time since 2021. The spokesperson for the NNPC Limited, Olufemi Shone, made this known in a statement, adding that the Akwoba Field was shut down in February 2022 as a result of problems with evacuation and crude oil thefts. Still within the oil space, Dangote Petroleum Refinery has announced a further reduction in the prices of diesel and aviation fuel to 940 naira per litre and 980 naira per litre respectively. The change in price is applicable to customers buying 5 million litres and above from the refinery, while the price of 970 naira is for customers buying 1 million litres and above. The Securities and Exchange Commission unit of the Association of Senior Civil Servants has described the immediate past administration of the Commission as a massive failure, leaving a legacy of backwardness and lack of development. It said that the lack of proactive leadership of the administration resulted in a drop in staff morale to its lowest ebb.
It is a fact that the ex-while DG and the executive management team, they have woefully failed in their responsibility as appointed by the former president. Their responsibility is clearly stated by the Investment and Security Act 2007, is the law that created them to develop the market and also to regulate the market. They have failed in carrying out that responsibility. And also the ex-while management team, they are very insensitive to staff welfare. Promotion has not been carried for many years ago. A lot of bad luck that were not cleared. Vacancies and lean vacancies were created. no welfare. For the last 13 years, there was no salary improvement, and issue of gratuity was mishandled. The activities of the management, human capital management. Human capital management by the ex-while manager, it was very poor. There was no staff promotion. This market is an information-driving market. You must train people, you must retrain them, both locally and internationally. They must be ahead of the market. But for the last 4 years, there wasn't local training, there wasn't foreign training, there was nothing on ground. So, and also issue of the staff gratuity. Staff gratuity, every successful worker will be thinking of, when I'm leaving the system, I should go with something. Our gratuity here is very poor.
A foreign aid package has been passed by the U.S. Congress after months of delay, clearing the way for billions of dollars in fresh Ukraine funding. It allowed a vote on this $95 billion in mostly military aid for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, and U.S. partners in the Indo-Pacific.
This national security bill is one of the most important measures Congress has passed in a very long time to protect America's security and the security of Western democracy. To our friends in Ukraine, America will soon deliver more ammunition and air defenses and basic supplies you need to resist Putin on the battlefield.
The European Council President Charles Michel has pledged to work closely with Senegal to address issues like migration and development. Michel told the president of Senegal, Bassirou Faye, that the European Union has an interest in Senegal's challenges of development, economic emergence, and improved living conditions.
And we can clearly see the link with issues of migration, including illegal and illicit migration, which in reality reflects this hope of going to the other side of the ocean or the sea to seek a better future. We believe that we must support efforts to address these root causes and deal with them.
His government.
As you know, this will involve improving the quality of public spending, more efficient taxation to better a mechanism for paying taxes where wealth is.
All right, let's quickly take a break, and when we return, we will continue with the program. Don't forget to connect with us on all our social media platforms. Of course, the handles are on the screen. You can also send a message to us on that number that is scrolling right now on your screen. You can ask questions, and definitely we will come back to you. So let's quickly take the short break. We'll be right back.
Because he knows he's going. You move money. I mean, the particulars of offense is there. It's before court. Go and check it. Apply for our processes, please. You will get some of these particulars of offense there. Move money directly from government to produce the change. Use it to pay the child's school fee in advance. In dollars, yes. In dollars. $72,000 or thereabout. $720,000, sorry. $720,000 in advance. In anticipation that he was going to leave government house. In a poor state like Kogi, and you want me to close my eyes to that? Under the guise of saying I'm being used. Used by who? At this stage of my life, used by who? By who? For crying out loud. I assumed office here. I didn't initiate the case. I inherited the case file. I called for the case file, I called for the report, and I said, look, there are issues here. Do you know on my honor, I put a call across to him, which ordinarily I'm not supposed to do, just to honor him as a governor, as a immediate past governor. Sir, there are issues. I've seen this case file. Can you just come? Let us clarify these issues. I'm under camera. He said, sir, I thank you, my brother. I know, but I can't come. There's one lady, I don't know what her name is, maybe a senator, that she learned she had said, she has surrounded the EFCC with over 100 journalists, to come and embarrass him and intimidate him and all kind of stuff. I said, okay, if that is your fear, I'm going to pass you through my own gate, special man's gate. You will come to my floor. We will accord you that respect. I will invite my operatives. They will come and interrogate you or interview you in my own office. What could be more honorable than that? In my own office. To allay the fear. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. You know what he said? But can't they come to my village? In this country. The man came, he went to court, surrendered himself. We gave him his passport, he went abroad, came back honorably, went to court, submitted to the jurisdiction of the court. On the day of arraignment, the court granted him bail. He's walking free now. We are in court together. Simple. Simple. Abdul Fattah Ahmed, who had left government house how many years ago? I said, look, this case must not die. Give me all these high-profile cases. We'll review them. Some people will say we are handing him, we are harassed. How about? Let's be fair on this. Look, we need the FCC. We need this institution to survive.
All right, that was the EFCC chairman there, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, where he did speak about a lot of things. There was a press briefing yesterday, of course, with bureau chiefs as well as editors. The EFCC chairman thought it wise to come and speak to the press. Of course, communication is necessary with the public, especially with the furore going on concerning corruption cases in the country. That why would we have certain laws for perhaps the poor, and that same law does not also apply to the rich? So the AFCC chair did address many issues yesterday. You heard him, of course, the issues around the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Governor Yaya Bello. EFCC chair did say, I will resign if this man is not brought to book. He also did talk about issues around the Yahoo boys thing, why the AFCC seems to be, putting so much attention on young folks. And he did mention even at that meeting yesterday that I think just last year alone, organizations lost $706 million. So for us as Nigerians, we shouldn't just take a look at it as just Yahoo or these guys are trying, you know, to fleece the dollars from our colonial masters. Because if you hear certain people, they'll be like, make we collect the dollars from them. After all, now them colonize Africa, now our money. But the EFCC chair did say yesterday that it's actually more than that. In fact, there's an organization called Alliance, and I've had them on the show many times, where, in fact, even this year, their reports this year came up with issues around cybercrime, and that many organizations lose money to cybercrime. And EFCC did say, the EFCC chair yesterday did say that we should not just take a look at this thing with just levity. This is a big issue. In the country, for example, we see that banks are losing money to cybercrime. Even other people are losing money. Even you, even on your phone, sometimes your WhatsApp could be hacked. Before you know it, they've entered your bank account because perhaps you store your PINs and your passwords here. But there are a lot of issues that we need to even address as a country. We need to address even the strength of the institutions in our country. Why will it take, for example, the EFCC chairman to even come on air to say things like this, as it were? As a governor, of course, you had immunity. Now, there's no immunity, so you need to attend to the issues or the charges that have been brought against you. There's also the side of the EFCC chairman, for example, did say yesterday that $720,000 was withdrawn from the state account to pay school fees for the governor's children ahead. There are also issues around that, because these are issues that will also come before the court. So the EFCC chairman perhaps is also a judge and jury in his own case. So it's really neither here nor there. But what I can also see is that it's failure of institutions, as it were, because this same governor, we're told, is being guarded by security agencies. So is EFCC, the police, DSS, are they not also working together? When it comes to perhaps the downtrodden or the poor man in Nigeria, there's no security. You know, they'll just come and pick you. In fact, EFCC will even bust the doors and all of that and get you out. But the issue is that we cannot continue with corruption in the country on all sides, whether it's Yahoo, whether it's corporate corruption, whether it's also corruption in the civil service or even in the public service. The EFCC chair also did talk about what's happening in the humanitarian ministry, not just about even the personalities that are involved, but it's about the institution. I remember during COVID, in times of, during the COVID year, yeah, that was 2020, I had an interview even with the former minister of humanitarian affairs on the program we had during COVID at that time. And I did ask her precisely how much was being spent for COVID funds. And I recall very vividly that she couldn't just give me an answer to that. You know, I recall that, and in fact, I went out of that interview thinking, okay, this minister, you were actually sharing money at that time in cash, sharing to people, and yet you could not give me an account of the billions of naira that was spent at that time. So there's a lot of hanky-panky, a lot of things that we need to address in this country. And one of those things definitely is corruption, because as Nigerians, we all reel from the consequences of corruption. Corrupt practices, our roads are not in order, the infrastructure not in order, our education. Why would monies that are meant for over 200 million Nigerians be siphoned into private pockets? And I think that was part of what the EFCC chair did talk about, that EFCC as an agency is needed. But EFCC also needs to be careful while you also pursue some of this. The corruption in the country has become endemic, and we must address it. But even while we're addressing it, and I've discussed corruption here even on the show many times, while we're addressing it, we also need to address the fundamentals of our society. If you tell people not to be corrupt, what modalities are you putting in place for them to have a better life? If you tell people not to be corrupt, how much are you paying them for minimum wage, for example, for someone that is being paid like 35,000 or 40,000 naira, and that person sees an opportunity to siphon 1 million naira? Of course, by all means, that person will do it, especially if nobody is watching. Why? Because that person cannot go home. The monies that the person is supposed to take home will not take the person home. So we need to address, while we're addressing the issue of corruption and the issue of corrupt practices, bringing those that are involved, allegedly involved, to book, we must also address the fundamentals, the fabrics of our social strata. We must address that. We must also address that the leaders should also lead by example. If you're telling me not to be corrupt, are you also not corrupt? Are you living by your own salaries, for example? So things like that have to be checkmated. All right. At this point, let's quickly take our guests. He's joining us virtually. He's Victor Chiazo, the Head Research Investment, FSL Securities Limited. Mr. Chiazo, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Nancy. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, welcome to the program. I'm not asking you any FCC question. We are talking about we're talking about the markets today. I will get started by, in fact, asking you what in the world are investors thinking about right now? What in the world are investors thinking about amid the potpourri of many pieces of information that is going up and down?
Sorry, can you take that again?
Okay. I am asking you, what in the world are investors thinking about at this time? With so many, information going up and down around the markets, even around the economy, what are investors thinking about right now?
Well, for any investor, what will be in the mind of the investor will be how to maximize return on their portfolio and their entire holding. The idea would be looking at all the headwinds available in the macro space. The investor's target will be to get the best out of the portfolio they manage, looking at inflation, looking at devaluation. How best do you play around those funds to maximize returns on those investments? And at the end of the year, you are able to smile to the bank because the truth is that with most of the headwinds around, if you're not a smart investor, if you're not an informed investor, you might find out that at the end of the financial year, your asset under management might not have done as well as you would have hoped because of all the negative factors affecting the market, especially looking at the swings in the equity space, looking at the yield environment, looking at the inflation rate, looking at the negative real return in the market. So all of these would be what the investor will be looking at to actually maximize returns on any investment.
What specific macros are influencing the market right now? You talked about inflation and some others, but what specific macros? Are there specific macros that are influencing the market as against others?
Yeah, for different aspects of the market, there are major indicators that actually affect it. Looking at the equities market, we're looking at inflation, which definitely affects activity in the market. We're also looking at the yield environment, which also affects activities in the market. We're also looking at the response of the CBN monetary policy to all of this, and how they respond will determine what happens within the investment space. So for the equities market, we all know how the equities markets react in a high yield environment. They don't tend to do well around a high yield environment. If you look at the last 9 years, you'll see that the equities market returned the best in 2020, where the yield environment was about 3.5%, as against the other years. So for the equities markets, they tend to do well when the yield environment is low. And for the fixed income market, once you see the benchmark interest rate move up, you tend to see the yield environment go up. That's where you begin to see a lot of activity around that space. So the major play is around inflation, around MPR and around the yield environment. That determines how market plays. Also, you also look at the exchange rate, which also has a huge effect on the foreign portfolio inflows and how it affects both the equity and the fixed income market.
Okay, for the last 2 months, it's not even up to 2 months, at least from the February meeting to the March meeting, the MPC meetings, we saw a sizable 600 basis point hike for interest rates. You glossed over it a bit. I would like us to go back to it to see how that sizable interest rate hike has impacted the market so far, at least in the last 3 weeks or so since the last meeting. We saw Cardoso at the IMF World Bank meeting. Of course, when he was speaking with Dr. Selassie, the IMF head of the African department, he did say that they needed to go very tough on interest rate. How has this really impacted the market? And are there sectors of the market that this sizable 600 basis point have really impacted than the others? I hope you understand my question.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
The reality is, what we've seen in the market is that investors are really not really focused on the negative return that is currently being offered by the market, because we have inflation currently at 33.2%, yeah. And inflation for February was around 31.7%. Currently, the yield environment for Treasury bill, last stock rate was around 21.12. So effectively, you have a negative return of over 10%. Let me take you back a bit. In 2023, this time 2023, the first quarter, end of the first quarter, we saw Treasury bill rates at around 14%, and we had Treasury around 14%, and we had inflation at around 21.9%. So effectively, the negative return on any investment then was around 7%. So if you're looking at 2023 and 2024, you find out that the negative return is higher now than what it was in 2023. But yet, you find out that the appetite for government securities has increased. If you also want to look
Okay, the network seems to be misbehaving. Can you hear me, Mr. Chiazo? I can hear you, but it's a bit wobbly. Okay, should we take a break and try to reconnect? Let's take a break, guys, and when we come back, we'll try to reconnect Victor Chiazo. I can still hear him speaking, but it's a bit wobbly. Okay, now I can hear you. Okay.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are now. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I was trying to speak to how the investors are actually reacting to the high yield environment, not necessarily minding the negative return. And like I said, in the offer at the Treasury bill market for last year, we saw an offer of about 139. Subscription of 165 billion, an allotment of about 142 billion, and the stock rate was about 14.7. You saw that the appetite there wasn't much because the subscription was about 165 billion. But fast forward to March 2024, we saw an offer of 162 billion, but subscription level about 2.4 trillion, and an allotment of about 1.1 trillion. It showed you that the market is actually more interested in the absolute numbers in terms of the interest rate being offered, not necessarily the negative return, because currently the negative return is actually wider now than what we saw in 2023. But fast forward to what we've seen with regards to the monetary policy, pushing benchmark monetary policy rates by about 600 basis points. We've seen a negative reaction with regards to market activities, because having seen most of the full year numbers for most of the players in the equities market, and most of them having marked down for full year dividend, we've seen most of the investors begin to move funds from the equity space to the fixed income market, where they can get yields of over 20%, because the truth is that where you can get a yield of over 21%, as against where you're getting dividend yield of between 7 and 12%, the incentive to stay in the equities market will not be there compared to what we saw in 2023, where more investors were more tilted towards the equities market. So for us, the increased monetary policy rates and the increased yield environment seems to be slowing down activities in the equities market, and it may continue if things don't reverse in the near term.
When do you think that perhaps there could be some kind of equilibrium? Because now, for the MPC, President Tinubu thought it wise, and I think it was also a smart move, thought it wise to bring in the DG of the Securities and Exchange Commission to be part of the MPC. I don't think we've ever had that. The ex-wild DG, the former DG that was just removed a few days ago, Lamido Yuguda, I've seen him attend the MPC twice, at least since this year, hoping that, of course, Mr. Gama, who is the new DG now, would also resume at the next MPC meeting next month. So when do you see that equilibrium? Because if Olayemi Cardoso and his friends, his former DG, his colleagues, are also having that meeting, there's a permanent secretary. There's a permanent secretary in the finance ministry as a member of the MPC, as well as SEC as a member. How do you think that they can actually balance that relationship? Because I wonder what will be going on in that room if Cardoso says, and his team says, I want to increase interest rates. The DG of SEC should be able to also say, guys, I know the quagmire we are in, but it also affects the space.
Well, I get your point, because the truth is that there needs to be some form of collaboration between both the fiscal authorities, monetary authorities.
This network is failing at this point. I guess let's take a break, guys. Let's take a break to reconnect with Mr. Victor Chiazo, and we'll be right back. Victor Chiazo, the head research and investment, FSL Securities Limited, is still with me. Sorry, Mr. Chiazo, the network has been a bit wobbly. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Okay, so just go ahead. I assume you heard my question earlier and you were making the point.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Chiazo, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Okay.
Hello, Nancy.
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me? I'm nodding in affirmation that I can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, good. So just land on your point.
Okay, so there needs to be this handshake, and just like we've seen in the past, we didn't see that relationship between the fiscal space and the monetary space before the current CBN governor and the new head of the finance came on board, Mr. Wale Edun and Mr. Cardoso. Now we're seeing some form of handshake between the two ministries. compared to what we saw before. So right now, we need to see that relationship between CBN and the fiscal authorities, because the idea would be we need to know when to stop the tightening and begin to loosen, because if we continue to tighten longer than necessary, it becomes counterproductive for the economy. Then we begin to see GDP growth begin to slow down. We begin to see lending to the real sector slow down, and that actually hurts the economy. And also we begin to see lesser activities around the equity space. So there needs to be this relationship that maintains a hawkish stance, but also know when to ease on the tightening.
You talked about earnings a moment ago. While you were speaking, you talked a bit of earnings, talked about earnings in surface. Now let's take a look at some of the earnings that we've been seeing, and I hope my team can actually put the graphics on the screen. Of course, we've seen, when I was taking a look at that, okay, you can see from, I can't see from here though, but what I see is Unilever and all of that. I think there should be Transcore there. Which categories of companies impressed investors the most for full year 2023, and perhaps we are also seeing some audited Q1 2024 earnings coming through?
Yeah, I think the banks, I would say, impressed investors the most.
The banks are always impressing.
Yeah, so the banks majorly for this year was likely due to the revaluation gains, which actually boosted most of their performance, as against other sectors that actually struggled with regards to high energy costs, high power, high cost of sales, and a significant jump in FX losses for those exposed to FX inflows. So we saw a bit of a segmentation where the banks benefited from the depreciation of the naira, while we saw most around the consumer goods space and some manufacturing, the manufacturing sector suffer from the loss in the naira. So it was a mixed bag. So I think for this period, the banks actually impressed the investors the most, though we didn't see that transition into improved or higher dividend payout on the back of the CBN stance that dividends shouldn't be paid from FX gains. So that sent a mixed feelings, some kind of mixed feelings to the market.
Just as our viewers are seeing on the screen right there, in fact, when I was reading the earnings of some of these banks, I also realized that I think Zenith Bank, Access Holdings, GTCO, I think either 4 or 5 banks actually made 2.4 trillion naira in profit after tax for full year 2023. And you're actually right, because of the currency gains that they've gotten, as against 700 and I think 710 or 15 billion naira that was profit after tax of these banks in 2022. How do you think that the recap story of banks will really, how are investors taking it? And with the earnings, because in fact, when the Central Bank of Nigeria came up with the guidelines for the recap for them, that would be from now to 2026, a lot of people were saying, yes, these banks have money. Let them go and recapitalize. They don't think it will be so much of an issue for them. What do you think? Victor, can you hear me? Wow, I think we're having, this network is really not friendly this morning. Victor, are you there? Can you still hear me? Okay, I guess the picture is frozen. Let's reconnect again and we'll be right back.
We can do it. We can build our country for the sake of the millions of the people. Delivery, yes, we must achieve it.
It could seem impossible because you don't dream big. When you have this mentality of an achiever, nothing is impossible.
So don't take on too much commercial or private debt so you can service. Any country, if you can service, if you're generating enough revenue from investing that money, fine. But if you're not, you have to be extremely careful because debt relief is not easy.
Hard decisions have been taken and they are required to help us because the central bank can't do it on its own. It has to work very closely with the fiscal side. One without the other is like, that famous adage of clapping with one hand. It won't go anywhere.
The last thing central banks want is the financial system, the tail of the dog, to start wagging the body of the dog, which is the economy itself. They don't want a feedback loop from bad finance to bad economics.
This is Moneyline with Nancy, and I am Nancy Nnaji, where I consistently give you a dose of finance, economy, markets, as well as investment information. All right, Victor Chiazo is still with me of FSL Securities Limited. Sorry, Victor, can you hear me now? I don't know why this network is misbehaving this morning. And it's not raining here. You would have just easily blamed the rains. But can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Or is it raining in Lagos? I heard it rained.
No.
Was it yesterday?
Yeah, it rained yesterday.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, it rained yesterday.
Okay. So go ahead, please.
So can you land on your point?
Yes, I actually asked about the earnings of banks and how the recapitalization process, I guess all the banks are thinking about that now. They are putting their strategies in place right now to be able to recap from now till 2026. How these earnings, how investors will be seeing these earnings as an indicator of the bank's recapitalization. That's one. Then the other part of the question is, what kind of evangelism is going on right now to investors, as in their readiness for the bank's recapitalization and the impact on the market?
Okay, so this recapitalization is for a while now, so it's not coming as a surprise to the market, though most people didn't expect the amount being projected. But however, I think the CBN has also given most of these banks a lifeline, because we're not going to see most of the banks disappear, just like we saw in 2005, because they're giving you options to either raise capital or downgrade from an international bank, national, or from a national bank to a regional bank. So those options are there, and I can tell you that for banks that will not be able to meet this recapitalization, especially for the tier 1 and tier 2 banks, the option there would either be to either just downgrade from an international bank to a national bank. So the options are there. Where we may see a lot of activities may be around smaller banks, regional banks, the likes of Providence Bank, and other banks that may not also be listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. We may see quite some level of mergers and acquisitions and a lot of activities to meet this recapitalization. However, with regards to the market, we're seeing some form of negative sentiments coming into play, because the reality is that most of these banks would actually need to issue more shares and actually dilute their current holdings. So investors are not taking that dilution as we expect in a positive way, because they feel that what it means is and share issue would increase, meaning that the profit being touted by the banks will now be shared amongst a larger pool of investors. So for any investor, they want to actually wait and see how all of this play, and besides the banks also notify the market as to how they plan to raise these funds. GTB notified the market that they're increasing their issued share capital from about 14 billion to 22 billion. While we've seen Zenith notify the market that are looking to increase from 15.9 to 31, meaning their shares in issue would most likely increase to about 62 from 31. So If they go by the way of 1-for-1, we can see the likes of First Bank issuing shares outstanding jumping from about 32 billion to about 62, meaning that existing shareholders will be diluted. For you not to be diluted, it means that the banks will need to double their profits. And what exactly is it? Is it really possible to see the banks double profits in the current financial year, between this year and between 2024 and 2025, before the deadline of this recapitalization? It may not be that. Really taking this positively. As we can see, the banking sector is down year to date by about 12%, showing you that the market and investors are not really accepting the current position of the possible dilution of their earnings.
Okay, let's talk about the SEC leadership. This new sheriff in town that has been appointed by President Tinubu. How do you think that might change the dynamics in terms of regulation? Or do you think, of course, there's this stock exchange, that's the NGX. The NGX is a group now, head by Temikpopo Ola. Of course, there are CEOs of other bodies there. But with SEC being the apex regulating body of the market, and I know that there is a master plan that the Securities and Exchange Commission has been working on since the days of Aruma Ote. What do you see changing as market watchers, as market players? Is there anything that the new SEC leadership needs to take on board? Because they might likely be watching. I know they are watching, actually, so they could.
What we believe is that we hope to see speed to market, because what we've seen most of the times is that most of the offers that most of the capital market operators have taken to the regulators seem to have slowed down. So we would hope to see speed to market, because with activities around recapitalization, we expect to see higher activities and higher engagement with the Securities and Exchange Commission, and they need to be on top of all of these activities. Else, we may see a slowdown of events. So for me, what we would expect to see with the new leadership of the Securities and Exchange Commission would be speed to markets. As the transactions come to SEC, we need to get speedy response. Where there will be deficiencies, let the deficiencies go out fast and quickly, so that the issuer and the other parties can actually respond, and all of these offers can actually hit the market timely, and the market can also respond. Because we all know that it seems like a long time, 2026, but before you know, for the snap of a finger, you're going to be there, and you see most of the banks and other players are looking to come to the market, begin to scamper to meet these deadlines. So I think speed would be what I would want to advise SEC to actually bring on board.
I think that's a good one, because really there is really no time. And for me too, even the new leadership of SEC, talking about, I know there are guidelines concerning crypto assets. They need to be a bit more, open as to that, and also investor education, because you still see a lot of unclaimed dividends. You still see a lot of the financial literacy is low. So that is from me to the SEC. The new SEC DG. All right, let's use the next few minutes to talk about what are the key considerations for investors right now, talking about investment strategies. In developing their investment strategies, what should people look out for people that really want to invest? Of course, there's still a negative real return now, I think at about 8.4% or so. But what considerations should one be making when developing strategies for investment?
Well, yeah, to maximize return on any investment you're holding. And the reality is that currently there's no asset class within the Nigeria financial space that gives you a return on investment that beats inflation. Not to talk of the activities around loss in the value of the naira. So the idea would be to look for instruments and a combination of asset classes that actually gets you closer to reducing your negative return to almost zero, or probably even beating both inflation and devaluation. So for me, I think investors should be looking at a combination of both the fixed income space and the equities market. If you recall, last year we saw most of the companies listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange do over 100% return in terms of capital appreciation. We're not talking about dividend play. The likes of UBA, the likes of Fidelity Bank, they all did over 100%. So you are invested January 2023 and you sold your investment, you exited your positions at December 2023. You would have beat both the loss in the Naira and you are also beating inflation. So you have to have a mixed bag, and you're looking at both activities, investing in blue chip companies within the equities market, and also having some level of both money market instruments and fixed income instruments in your portfolio. Having a mix of all of this gives you some edge around beating both inflation and the devaluation play. So I think investors will be looking at maximizing their portfolio around those asset classes.
Okay. So in short, diversification. Diversification,
Exactly.
so that you can mitigate your risk as you hedge against short-term gains as well as long-term investment goals. Thank you very much, Victor, for being on the show today, and have a lovely day.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I've been speaking with Victor Chiazo, who is the head research and investment at FSL Securities Limited. That's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. Thank you all for your company. Please join me again tomorrow, same time on this channel. Another guest, another topic, or different guests, different topic. You don't want to miss tomorrow also. Be the best you can be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Najibai now. Thank you for watching. In case this is your first time watching us, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, drop your comments as well as like, and most of all, share our content.